Our speaker today is actually a visitor and a guest at Purdue University this year. He is a recipient of a Fulbright grant to visit us. Professor Ali Al-Haj is a professor at Princess Sumaya Technical University in Amman, Jordan. He's a senior faculty member with a very distinguished record working in cybersecurity, particularly in areas of risk and cybersecurity management. I would like to suggest to any of you who are interested in these topics, who are interested in finding out more perhaps about what is happening with cybersecurity in that part of the world, or interested in anything dealing with cybersecurity risk, cybersecurity governance, some of the issues related to particularly ISACA as a professional organization. He's very involved there. That you contact Professor to set up a meeting with him, because he's going to be visiting with us still.
Can you see me now?
And there we've got an image. But he's been with us
Can you put it in a
much
better
of the
way?
fall semester. Will be with us the spring semester, and would undoubtedly like to talk to anybody who's interested in these topics. This is something that we can have ongoing collaboration, not only while he's here visiting, but after he returns home. We've had some collaboration before he came here on the Fulbright with him, his colleagues, and his students there. They have a really good program. We're interested in continuing to support it. And so you can find his information on the CERIAS site through the security seminar page. And he does not look like a ceiling tile and a light fixture. I can assure you of that. He's actually a real person. Ah, there he is. We're getting the camera set up. We've had some great conversations. He's sitting in on my CS 523 class, and I know he would be certainly interested in talking to students or faculty or anybody else who might be interested in some of these topics.
Yeah, this is great. Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Spav. Can you hear me, Spav?
Yes, and one more comment. If any of you have questions, put them in the Q&A at the bottom of the screen, not in the chat. So we're going to turn it over to Professor Al-Haj.
Yeah.
Please.
Well, first, I apologize for everybody for this technical issues. As they say, if something goes wrong, it goes wrong in the wrong time. So it just happened. So thank you, Spav, for the introduction. I really appreciate it. I appreciate hosting me as a Fulbright scholar at the prestigious CERIAS Institute at Purdue University. I've been here since mid-August, and since coming, I've been really, as Spav said, I'm interested in the non-technical side of cybersecurity, those issues with governance, risk, compliance, and all these things. So while here, I did some preliminary research on digital trust that I really like to share with everybody. And as far as I know, most of the audience will be graduate students. So this could be a good tutorial for anybody interested in doing research in digital trust. So a little about me, I received my high school diploma from Solon High School in the United States, Ohio, in 1980. I was a foreign exchange student. Then I went back home and I had another high school diploma in 1981. My background is EE, electrical engineering, from Yarmouk University in Jordan. And in 1985, I got a full scholarship. They call it Mumbusho Scholarship from the Japanese government, where I did my master's and my PhD in Japan, my master's in Tottori University, and in my PhD in Osaka University, both in EE. But most of my research was done on computers and neural networks, actually, in that time. As a working experience, after I got my PhD, I worked in AT labs in Japan, Advanced Telecommunications Research Laboratories, for 1 year. Then I went back home and I started my career at PSUT. PSUT stands for Princess Sumaya University for Technology. It's a small university, about 5,000 students. It's a royal small university, technical in a way, and it's known for good quality graduates, I would say. And as you could see, since 1995, so it's been a while. This year is going to be 30 years at one single place, PSUT, meaning that I like the place and I've been really a founder of a couple of departments, most notably the Information Security Department in 2014. I had sabbaticals at the University of Jordan, in Jordan, Applied Science University in Jordan, and this is my third sabbatical at Purdue University at CERIAS. My current research is cybersecurity, GRC, as Pap said, governance, risk, and compliance in IT. Recently, as I came here, I developed interest in doing digital trust frameworks. And just like anybody, I started doing something with AI, ethics in AI, or AI governance. But my previous research has been all in technical research, information security, cryptography, digital signal processing, mostly computer architecture, where my PhD was in data-driven architectures. And then I did a lot of work on FPGAs, very comfortable computation. Today, I would like to talk about this fancy term, fancy phrase, digital trust. It's an emerging concept, actually. And you can't really talk about digital trust without talking about social trust, because digital trust is based on social trust, the trust that among us human beings. Like we'll talk about trust factors, and then digital trust frameworks, and then something that everybody I think would be interested in knowing, digital trust in academia. As the title said, this I will not go deep into this other one, zero trust, but because it has the same trust, so I thought I would just say something about how they relate to each other. Zero trust, which is technical domain, it's different than digital trust. Talk about its principles, architecture, research, and how they relate to each other. And this is the topic of my talk. Nobody can talk about digital trust without really talking about cybersecurity, because digital trust actually is an extension of cybersecurity. So I will talk about digital trust from the cybersecurity perspective. So I will have some slides about cybersecurity before I go into talking about digital trust. So cybersecurity is not a purely technical field, as everybody knows. It is studied across multiple disciplines: computer science, engineering, economics, law and management, and sociology, and many other fields. And for example, in computer science, maybe mostly will be interested in doing intrusion, just examples, secure coding, intrusion detection. In sociology, at the end, maybe ethics in cybersecurity, cyber laws. So many fields that cybersecurity crosses in a way. So what is cybersecurity? Cybersecurity is a multi-factor construct. When we say cybersecurity, what does that mean? So we have a digital asset, could be data, digital data. And when we say cybersecurity, we say that we want to protect this data. What does protection of the data means? Means we have to provide confidentiality, which means data can be only disclosed to authorized people. Integrity, nobody can mess up with the data. No, data cannot be tampered. So cybersecurity provides the means to provide integrity. Availability, whenever we need the data, it has to be there. So this is why we need availability. These three, sometimes they call services, factors, they constitute what is called the CIA triad: confidentiality, integrity, availability. But as the field progressed and advanced, more factors came into account: authentication, non-repudiation, accountability, privacy, and it seems the list will go on. These all, when we talk about cybersecurity, it's not just one term. Actually, cybersecurity is a means to provide these services. So this leads us to what is cybersecurity? We know now the services cybersecurity must provide. Cybersecurity has hundreds of definitions, actually. Even NIST itself has multiple NIST definitions. Start with simple definitions: ability to protect or defend the use of cyber space from cyber attacks. Definition 2, the process of protecting information by preventing, detecting, and responding to attacks. And it goes on. The third definition explicitly states the term confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And the definition number 4 even goes beyond those, the triad services, and it lists the authentication, non-repudiation. And so as you could see, even cybersecurity is not really well defined in a way. They're all right, they are correct, but we have different definitions. The reason that I started these slides because digital trust has the same thing, many definitions, many factors. Somehow, sometimes you could say that it's a chaos in terms of definitions. So let's start talking about trust. Trust is a complicated, actually, social construct. It emerges from relationships and interactions. When we say trust, there must be interactions. A trust in a relationship, trust in an interaction. And just like cybersecurity, it crosses many disciplines like psychology, sociology, economics, political science, and technology. And the research domains in each of these fields is different. Like in psychology, they would research about trust as a cognitive and emotional state. And at the end, technology, when we say digital trust, is trust in algorithms, trust in autonomous systems, and all that. So let me start from the conclusion before I try to talk in details about it. Digital trust, in principle, it's cybersecurity plus additional factors. Additional factors could be privacy, safety, fairness, transparency, and many other factors. So actually, we're not talking about two different domains. When we say digital trust, it's a fancy word. It's been coined by big business companies, and it's actually cybersecurity, adding to it some ethical factors: privacy, safety, fairness, and transparency. So this is what digital trust is: cybersecurity, privacy, safety, functionality, transparency, fairness. When you have all these services provided, then we're talking about a digitally trusted system. So we are extending the definition of cybersecurity into digital trust by adding more services, more trust factors. So now, trust, how is trust presented? Trust, we have truster on one side, we have a trustee on the other side, and we have a trust medium. So the act of trust is often represented as a relationship between a subject, this is the subject, and this is the object, and this is the trust medium. And if trust is established, then there is an outcome. So let's just dig into trust more, starting with saying, what are the types or what are the forms of trust? The fundamental and the principal form is social trust. And sometimes people would refer to it interpersonal trust, human trust, it's just the same. As for digital trust, actually, the literature has so many confusing definitions, but two main definitions, two main categories. Digital trust might refer to trust in technology or technology trustworthiness, which is the same. Or it could involve people, and it could be socio-technical trust, digital interpersonal trust, and digital trust ecosystem. They refer to the same thing, but this one is different than this one. So I'll take each one of these trust forms and talk about it with examples so that it's obvious what each means. Starting with social trust, that is the building block for trust. What is the meaning of social trust? It is the subjective probability that an entity, a trustee here, has the required capacity and willingness to perform an action that is beneficial to or not harmful to another entity, which is the truster. So we have a truster, we have a trustee, and we have the physical world. So the truster, in order to trust the trustee has to provide some factors. some attributes that eventually, if the truster is convinced with, there will be some sort of trust. Trust will be established, and the outcome is interaction and collaboration. Which means there are three basic attributes, factors that a trustee must exhibit, must have in order for the truster to establish a trustworthy relationship with the trustee. First, the ability. The trustee must have the ability to do something. The trustee must also have the willingness to do it. Not only the ability, but must be willing to do it as well. And number three is integrity. He must be sincere, honest in delivering what is he supposed to do. So in our world, as human beings, when we say trust, actually, we expect the other side to be capable, to be willing to do something for us, and to be honest and sincere in doing that for us. For example, this is as an example and social trust that we always encounter in our daily life. Imagine you, the truster, need someone to help you move to a new apartment. So you decide to ask your friend Alex, the trustee, and your trust in Alex is based on ability, willingness, and integrity. So you trust Alex because you know Alex is physically fit, so he's capable. You trust Alex because you know Alex is your friend and he agrees to help without hesitation, even though it means sacrificing his weekend. So he's willing to do that. And you have had some experience with Alex, so you know he's honest and he's reliable and he's been there for you in the past. So these three things, ability, willingness, and integrity, constitute what is called social trust. Now we go to the second form, and I say the second type has two forms: trust in technology and social trust. Trust in technology means an individual, user, or organization is willing to rely on a technology to accomplish a specific task. For example, here's the truster, and the trustee in this case is the technology. Suppose it's AI. The truster expects the trustee, the technology, to have attributes necessary to perform an expected task in a given situation, knowing that there will be consequences, negative consequences. So the technology is the trustee. And as a truster, I cannot use, for example, AI. I would trust AI if I know that AI will perform the task to me with capability, with correctness, with many factors. If I do that, then I trust this technology. The outcome of this trust relationship is acceptance. If I trust technology, then I would accept it, then I would use it. There are many factors that a truster here would expect from a trustee to provide in order to establish a trustworthy relationship, the outcome of which is acceptance and use. This is also a chaos in literature. There are many definitions, many factors. Many authors propose different factors that would eventually end to what is called digital trust. Some would say cybersecurity added to it functionality, helpfulness, reliability, and credibility and safety would make up the digital trust. Some other authors would say no, it's cybersecurity, usefulness, ease of use, enjoyment, value, quality, transparency would constitute what's called digital trust. Some other authors would say it's cybersecurity, safety, privacy, auditability, transparency, readability, fairness, what would be called digital trust. So there's no actually a set of trust factors that everybody would agree on that these should be provided, should be exhibited by the trustee, the technology, in order to say that this technology is trustworthy. We have different set of trust factors that people use differently. Let's just take an example. Trust online banking technology. Imagine you, the truster, using online banking application, trustee. So the trustee is a technology here, is a banking application provided by your bank. You trust this specific technology to perform financial tasks, even though you know that there is a potential negative consequences, such as financial loss, fraud, or data breaches. So here, there are maybe we could say three factors that would make up the digital trust. Cybersecurity, because the application uses multi-factor authentication. Reliability, you know the application is available 24/7 with minimal downtime, and functionality. You can easily transfer funds. So for you, this would say that this online banking application is trustworthy. So it provides the necessary digital trust. So it's cybersecurity plus some additional factors make up the digital trust. Now, the second type of digital trust is when people are involved, and this is called socio-technical trust. And it's just not only people here, but also we have IT infrastructure. So there is the trust between technology and the people at the same time, the trust between the people themselves using this technology. So we have the people factor added to it. Just put it this way, we have a digital environment here, and we have a truster, could be a person, could be organization, could be an IT object, and we have a trustee, the same thing, person, organization, object, and we have a digital environment. The trust must be exhibited by two trustees, the people who are engaged with you using this digital environment, and the technology itself is a trustee. So you have to have trust in both. Same as cybersecurity, there are so many definitions for this kind of digital trust, but you could say that it's the level of confidence in people, processes, and technology to build a secure digital world. So we have, it's not only processes, it's not only technology, but people are involved. So this is why it's called socio-technical trust. One of the most well-used definitions is the definitions coined by Isaka, and it's the confidence in the integrity of the relationships. And it's just, Isaka will talk about its digital trust framework later on, but Isaka is a leading organization in digital trust, and it has a very comprehensive definition of digital trust. Again, we have so many factors that when added to cybersecurity would constitute what's called digital trust. For example, some authors would say, to have digital trust, we have to have cybersecurity plus privacy, resilience, quality, reliability, confidence, integrity, assurance, safety. Other authors would argue that we need transparency, accessibility added to cybersecurity. We need ethics, privacy, security, reliability in order to say that we have a socio-technical trust. And many groups would have different factors. And this is the dilemma, let's say, in digital trust. You cannot really have a set of factors that everybody agrees on. Everybody agrees that cybersecurity should be there, but what is added to that cybersecurity? What other factors are added? It differs from one author, from one organization, from one company, from one consultancy to other. For example, a socio-technical trust, telemedicine service. Some patient is at home and he is going to receive some medication while at home from a remote doctor. Now, he needs two layers of trust. The first layer is to trust the patient should trust the doctor's competences, experience, and reputation. But at the same time, he also needs to trust the platform, the telemedicine platform, the technology. So now when trust is needed both from people and from technology, we have this socio-technical trust. So some authors actually try to relate social trust factors, which we talked at the beginning, ability, willingness, integrity, with equivalent digital trust factors. So ability, some authors would equate it with competence, resilience, availability, decentralization, automation of data. This all together would be equal one over the other to social trust factors. As for willingness, privacy, usability, authorization, accountability would be considered one way or the other as willingness. Integrity, non-repudiation, compliance, adaptability, transparency, honesty, traceability. Some authors would say, well, this would equal integrity of social trust. So there is a way to link social trust and digital trust. As I said, the problem is so many factors that could be added to cybersecurity in order to establish what is called digital trust. But that is context-based. It depends on the context. For example, digital trust in e-government in e-government, we need cybersecurity, but at the same time, we need fairness, transparency, and legal accountability. Whereas in business, we need cybersecurity, but to say that we have digital trust, we have to add transparency, accountability in handling customer data and services. So as you could see here, different factors are added to cybersecurity in order to call it digital trust. Even in social media, we could have what is called digital trust, and it's a mutual relationship between two parties. Each of them will play the role of trustor and trustee, and the media itself will be the trustee as well. So we have different trustees here. In social media, same thing. We have cybersecurity is needed, but also we have privacy, content quality, and ethical interactions should be considered in order to say that we have a socio-technical digital trust in social media. So as I said, there are so many factors that could be added to cybersecurity. And of course, cybersecurity, as I said at the beginning, it's CIA plus many factors, authentication, integrity. But if we add fairness, safety, reliability, ethics, usability, integrity to those cybersecurity factors, we will have what is called digital trust. So I think this is it. It's a fancy word, but it's not really a whole new concept. It's just cybersecurity plus added factors that should be considered in order to have digital trust. How do we implement digital trust? That should not be a really big problem. We know how to implement confidentiality through encryption, integrity through hashing. Fairness could be implemented in reality using bias detection algorithms. Safety could be implemented using secure design principles, because the code could be dangerous. I mean, if you use a code in cyber physical systems, if the code is not well presented, if it's not secured, that could be harmful to the whole factory, for example. So physical safety protocols also the same. So each factors can be implemented. I'm putting some examples here and how different stress factors can be implemented in reality. For example, competence, which is a digital trust factor, could be implemented using training programs, certification, continuous education, and all these things. There are many digital trust frameworks from academia and industry. One of the most well-known trust frameworks is the one that is published by the World Economic Forum, and it is in collaboration with KPMG, PwC, and all this big four. And this is their framework, digital trust. And these are the factors that should be available, should be provided from the trustee in order to say that this is a trustworthy trustee in order to have any kind of interaction. And so the major factor here, as we said earlier, is cybersecurity. And these factors have been added in order to provide digital trust. This is one of the well-known frameworks in industry. In academia, I found this this framework, and it's actually reflected on the social trust factors: ability, willingness, and integrity. And underneath each of them, there are many factors that we just talked about. And all these would provide, if available, if provided by the trustee, we will have digital trust. But digital trust, just like human trust, is not guaranteed to last. It's just it may vary, it may change. So if there is a digital trust established, this will lead to effective communication. But later on, maybe during communication, some of these factors were not really implemented in full. So the trust itself might be affected. And maybe after initial trust, the trust will be lost due to the loss of some of these factors. So this is why we have this loop back to the end. One of the most actually well-known digital trust frameworks is the one that is published by ISACA, and it's actually a socio-technical digital trust framework. You have people here, you have technology, but they added to it organization, which means governance in a way. So you can't really leave if you want really trust in a very effective way, you have to have people, technology, but at the same time, you have to oversee it. You have to monitor it. You have to put policies and processes. So they add this, and they call it this ecosystem. You can't have digital trust without having an organization that is overseeing what people are doing, what technology is doing, to make sure that the trust is really implemented in each part of this ecosystem. This is a framework that I have started working on. We have digital trust governance here, and governance means policies, processes, and this could be from the organization itself. It could be from the federal state governance. It could be from social ethics. It could be international regulations. But all these, one way or the other, would have processes, policies that will be used to regulate digital trust. Here I have just displayed the different parts of digital trust, the technology, that's what I said, trust in technology, and this is social trust. And if we use both of them as a framework, we have the socio-technical trust. This cannot be left alone without governance. So I'm trying to sort of use some GRC concepts in trying to implement the digital trust. It has to be governed one way and the other so that we make sure that digital trust is implemented in the right way. In academia, as I said, digital trust is a phrase or a term coined by industry. It's not really, it did not start by academia. So looking at many publications, like for example, this is a sample of 34 publications. In academia, there are not many publications about digital trust. And if you find them, you will find them through different disciplines. Out of the 34, 14 came from computer science authors, 9 from engineering authors, 5 from economics and social issues, mathematics. Many people in different areas work on digital trust. So it's a multidisciplinary area that it needs collaboration between different people with different backgrounds. But when I started, this my literature review on digital trust, I was really surprised by the scarcity, the limited number of publications about digital trust. Well, this is maybe if some people are interested in doing research in digital trust, I have listed here several papers that people may want to look at and start. If you are interested in doing digital trust research, I think this is a good starting point. These are good 4 papers, and it's just a good foundation for research in digital trust. My recommendations for graduate students who really interested in doing digital trust research, to work in a multidisciplinary team, because you will end up studying papers written by social scientists. You will end up just reading papers about people doing economics or even political science. So you can't really do digital trust research without having to read papers from different domains. Because of the very nature of trust. Trust is a social concept, and it's been treated and it's been investigated throughout history. So you expect yourself to go into psychology, maybe. You will end up having a good reference in psychology. So this is a multidisciplinary team. You can't, as I said, there are not many papers in academia. So you need to go and look for publications in different, you could find white papers, technical reports, sometimes even press release, like ISACA has a lot of white papers, technical reports, press release about digital trust. You can't just rely on scientific papers published in journals. You need to see, because this is a leading domain, a leading research area in industry. So one way or the other, you need to see what's going on in industry and the consultancy firms like PwC, EY. They will be very useful. There are many research areas that you could really start with digital trust: development of context-based digital trust framework models, or implementation of digital trust systems, or you could work on performance evaluation of digital trust systems. These are open areas in digital trust that you could start working on. So this has been really a modest introduction, a tutorial about digital trust. As I said, it's an extension of cybersecurity. It's not a whole new domain. It's not a whole new area. It's cybersecurity plus factors, trust factors, and trust factors are not well agreed on. They are not agreed on. The trust factors that are added to cybersecurity depends on the context. Like in e-government, you will have different factors than in e-business. You will have different trust factors in social media. But at the end, this is correct. It's all correct because trust, even for us, trust from one person to another, to trust in government, trust in people will be different, and you would consider different factors to establish a trustworthy relationship with other people. Now, the second title that I like just to, because it attracts my attention from the beginning, is zero trust, and I just wanted to see how it relates to digital trust. So zero trust, this is well-known field, and people in security, I think most people would know about it. It's a security model, actually. It's based on, it assumes that every user, device, and network request is untrusted, even if it originates from within the organization's perimeter. For example, here, this is the traditional perimeter defense. Once you're in, you have access to everything. But in zero trust, it's no trust zone. Everywhere you go inside the company, inside the computer center, inside the data center, any action should be evaluated for access. Trust is not guaranteed. You have to be trusted before having access to any request. You put it another way, the principles on which zero trust is based, actually, there are four major principles. Never trust, always verify. So every user, every device, and every application must authenticate continuously to confirm their identity before accessing resources. And the second principle, use least privileged access. So access is permissions are granted on need to know. Whatever, just what you know, this is a well-known in cybersecurity, of course, need to know basis. And also, in order to implement this one, you need to have segmentation of the network. Just the whole network is divided into small silos, small secure zones to limit movement of attackers. And at the same time, you have always to consider that every access is a breach. So you have to monitor continuously the activities to see the network activity, to see, I mean, in time here, what SIM is used here to monitor everything, to make sure that everything is working correctly. The major benefit of zero trust actually is this one, mitigates insider threats. More than 60% of the threats in companies and corporates comes from inside. But with zero trust, even the insider cannot have access to any place he wants to. He has to be authenticated. His request has to be verified before he's granted access. And this solves this insider threat problem. And as I said, this is a compelling problem that is, everybody suffers from the insider threats. So the zero trust is really good in terms of offering this continuous verification, and it sort of reduce or minimize the threat of insiders working inside the company. Any threat that comes from insiders will be minimized by having the zero trust strategy. Of course, many people would love to implement zero trust, but it comes with cost. Investment in technologies can be substantial, but at the same time, performance. If everything has to be verified before being granted access, this will lead to latency. So any company trying to implement zero trust must take these into consideration. In terms of performance, cost, it does give benefits, but at the same time, this benefit comes with extra cost. This is the zero trust architecture. It's simple, and it's from NIST publication. This is the subject, and this is the object, the resources. and the subject initiate a request, and it's taken by the policy information point here, and his request is transmitted for a decision maker. It's called policy decision point. The decision is made here whether to give access to this subject or not, to meet his request or not. And to make a decision, this policy decision point needs a lot of information that comes from policy information points. All the information will be provided here, and the decision will be made and be transmitted to the policy administrator and then to the policy enforcement to enforce the decision. The decision coming from this point to this point could be a deny or a grant access. If deny, the subject will not have access to the resources. If access is accepted, then the subject will have access to resources. So it's a subject, it's a resource here, object, and we have decision-making mechanism that must look at every request before granting or not granting access. So what we have actually here, just trying to look at the policy decision point, we have this policy decision point. It's a policy engine and policy administrator. The policy engine is here. We have a trust algorithm. The trust algorithm takes all the information, and besides, based on this information, will decide to grant or not to grant the access. And this decision is from the policy engine here is transmitted to the policy administrator here, which then it will be given to the policy enforcement to enforce the decision. So in terms of architecture, it's very simple. And it's just a continuous authentication. And what's good about it is the information here is always updated. And you could have it from different resources, and each resource might have a different weight, depends on its importance. So this is what we have, a trust algorithm. The algorithm, this is configurable, this is programmable, depending on the enterprise, depending on the department. So it depends on the importance of each of these components. The algorithm will make the decision. Zero trust technology is really advanced in industry. There are many companies that most major cybersecurity companies have implemented and provide zero trust solutions like Zscaler, FrontPoint, those large companies, Palo Alto and Fortinet. So zero trust is really advanced field in terms of technology, and even in terms of research. There is a great, I've checked it in IEEE and many publications. There's a great research in zero trust in academia. These are the areas that still active research areas in zero trust: advanced identity and access management, dynamic policy enforcement. There are many research papers on this topic as well. Microsegmentation, automated threat detection and response, data protection, a zero trust framework, behavioral analytics, AI. Of course, AI is used everywhere, and AI is used here, especially in threat intelligence. So in these policy information points, threat intelligence is one of these components. So AI is used extensively here in order to provide the right decision. So back to the point of the whole talk, what is the relationship between digital trust and zero trust? And as I said, digital trust is actually cybersecurity plus many other factors. So the cybersecurity component factor could be implemented by zero trust technology. That's so this zero trust is actually complementing, could be used to implement the cybersecurity that is needed to provide or to achieve digital trust. So cybersecurity can be zero trust cybersecurity, and that's actually the only relationship. Other factors must be provided by different fields. Maybe we could put it this way. These are the digital trust factors. These are the ones that could be provided by the zero trust implementation. fully implemented by Zero Trust implementation. Here, transparency, accountability, privacy, reliability could be implemented partially by Zero Trust, but fairness, safety, ethics, usability, they cannot be provided by Zero Trust implementation. So Zero Trust could be used to provide the cybersecurity part of digital trust. That is actually the conclusion that I would say that I have reached in terms of the relationship between digital trust and Zero Trust. It's like Zero Trust implements the cybersecurity component or the cybersecurity factor in digital trust. So digital trust is cybersecurity plus ethical factors, limited research area in academia, but in business, it's a multi-billion business and industry. Whereas Zero Trust implements the cybersecurity factor of digital trust. It's an active research area in academia, implemented in federal agencies because it's a NIST framework, and implemented in critical infrastructures in many countries. So I hope by this short talk, I just shed the light on some concept and what is this fancy word that is called digital trust. Just to say the truth, when I started getting information about trying to know what is digital trust, I thought it was just a whole different domain, but it's actually just a continuation. It's just a continuation, an extension. Let's say an extension of cybersecurity. Anybody who wants to work in digital trust must really need to expect to read papers in social science. So be ready for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the talk. That was great. Again, as a reminder to the audience, if you have questions, please post them to the Q&A at the bottom of the screen. And one of the things I was thinking about as you were talking through this about how trust is a bigger concept than cybersecurity, that helps explain why some people mistakenly trust systems that have poor cybersecurity, is because they're depending more on some of those social aspects.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I thought, is an interesting insight somebody can draw from this. There's a question in the Q&A if you'd care to answer that. Can you see it?
Yeah. The question is from David. As organizations grow and integrate AI agents into their ecosystems, autonomous security operations, and AI-driven decision-making, what strategies or best practices will help ensure Zero Trust and digital trust principles remain effective while balancing and expanding threat landscape and evolving TTPs? I think something that I did not talk about in this presentation is the role of GRC, governance, risk, and compliance. You can't really rely on technology to achieve the digital trust that you really need. As I said, I'm working in a framework that I added the governance component on the top of digital trust. So if strategies it has to come from let's say the business requirements, the government requirements, the requirements from the corporation. It has to come from the agency itself, translated into a strategy, then implemented, and then it has to be enforced. So we need to make sure that digital trust will be eventually implemented and enforced. GRC must be there. So I think a big strategy in that we have, like in many companies, as I said, this is a leading topic in industry, and it's a multi-billion industry. They actually, in the board, they have a digital trust committee. So a digital trust committee is responsible for putting the needed strategies to make sure that digital trust is implemented. Why most companies are running after digital trust? Because it helps them with compliance. Compliance costs companies billions of dollars. They have to comply with many federal, international regulations, and digital trust. One of the basic and very much wanted factor in it is compliance. So I think the board must be involved, governance must be there, processes, policies must be developed in order to have effective digital trust. So GRC must be there in order to put the right strategies.
Great. Other questions? Well, I'm not seeing anything else pop up in the Q&A. Thank you again. This was interesting. Will you make these slides available? Maybe send the PDF.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Because I think in particular the references that you gave are really good ones if somebody wants to dive more into this topic. And again, I'll mention to anybody who tuned in a little late, Professor Al-Haj is visiting here at Purdue through the end of the academic year. And if you're interested in talking with him further on any of these issues, please send him an email. I'm sure he'd love to be visiting with anyone who's interested in discussing these issues more. I certainly had some great talks with him already and looking forward to some more.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to mention that Joel put into the chat the registration for the 26th annual CERIAS Cybersecurity Symposium, April 1st and 2nd. So if anybody has not registered, Dr. Al-Haj will be also giving a presentation at that. So
yes,
thank you.
Plus some other interesting talks. The agenda is available.
Yes, lots of them.
Yeah.
So with that, thank you very much for attending this week, and we will have another session next week at the same time. So, and thank you, Ali.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.